cannot discuss in terms of what the equipment was. But it was a certain type of equipment which only made sense if they were going to land. We were asked that we deliver that particular equipment within 6 hours. We managed to do it. From our stocks to the South Atlantic to the British for use 6 hours later. We did it.
I think America would have been in a very difficult position if Britain had looked like losing. They would have had a NATO ally and a close old friend being defeated by a dictatorship in the South Atlantic. And I think they would have inevitably, in some ways, have got drawn in, which they didn't want to do.
Could we have done it without them?
We certainly couldn't have done it in the time in which we did, or with the relatively reasonable casualties. It would have been much more costly and much more lengthy without American support. I attach enormous importance to the support we got from America in communications and in material.
No weapon was more important than the American Sidewinder missiles, which the Harrier jets had been adapted to carry.
Well, they weren't just Sidewinders. They were the latest version of the Sidewinders that gave a wholly new capability to that heat-seeking missile. There were only the small Harriers that had no real area defense capability, and so the shots they could get at the attacking Argentines were within visual range, and often oncoming shots. Well, the old Sidewinders, you have to get behind an aircraft to shoot a Sidewinder, and by that time, he's dropped his bombs on the ship. The new Sidewinders, you can shoot head-on, and that's what the Harriers did so brilliantly and so effectively. And as a result, they forced all of the Argentines after that to fly down on the deck, which forced them to drop the bombs from very low altitudes, and most of them didn't fuse. So there were about 10 ships that actually had bombs in them that didn't go off because of the effectiveness of forcing them down.
But the decision to give that new Sidewinder, that's not just normal relationships, that's a deliberate decision, isn't it? A deliberate decision to save Britain's bacon.
Yes, de facto, definitely.
It wasn't just Sidewinders, but all sorts of American weaponry that was made available to Britain during this war. Other missiles, mortar shells, high explosive ammunition, even night vision goggles and matting for the Harriers to land on. As the battle for the Falklands intensified, Britain's constant requests to the Pentagon continued to meet with a swift response. So it was your war, it was America's war?
No, it wasn't our war. We weren't dying out there. It's only your war if you're dying out there.
So what was it to you?
We were helping. We were doing what we could. We were being loyal friends. But it wasn't our war. We didn't lose people.
What would have happened if the American administration had said, we're going to be strictly neutral, no more help to Britain while this thing goes on?
Well, I think that Britain would have had to have withdrawn from the Falklands.
Would have been defeated, in other words?
Yes. That's my personal opinion. Anyone can speculate, but from everything I know, that is certainly my firm conclusion.
Why do you conclude that?
Because Britain had let so much of her modernization and infrastructure decline during the 60s and 70s that she did not have what it took to defend herself in a prolonged engagement, even against a rather primitive, though highly trained and highly motivated force like the Argentines. They were not up against the Russians. But a succession of governments had refused to put the money into the modern communications gear, the missile defenses, the Sidewinders, the three-dimensional air defense radars, and most stupidly of all, scrapped the big aircraft carriers. Indeed, they had the Invincible class carriers on the block to Australia at the very time it took place. So you just can't have it both ways. You can't want to play a role as a serious power and do it on the cheap. And so we made up for it.